For a quarter of a century, children tuned in to WTMJ radio to listen to a very memorable character. We'll celebrate the 75th anniversary of Billie the Brownie with my special guests next on I Remember. Hi, I'm Jim Peck. Welcome to I Remember. Joining me tonight is Sari Ross. Long before she became a teacher and professional storyteller, she was a teenager with a secret. For 3 years, in the 1940s, Sari was the voice of Billie the Brownie, a wildly popular WTMJ radio show sponsored by Schuster's department stores. Also joining me is Doris Alimo-Malillo. She, too, taught for several years before becoming a costume supervisor in the entertainment industry in Los Angeles. In addition, she's the author of a new book entitled Dory May and Her Friend Billie. It's sprang from memories of her childhood in Milwaukee listening to that very special radio show. Take a look.
Jingle bell, jingle bell.
With that familiar toot of the horn, children knew it was time for Billie the Brownie. During the Christmas season, they would tune in WTMJ radio to listen to Billie, the announcer Larry, and even Santa.
Hi, greetings, and bend an ear for the busiest program of the year.
Children waited eagerly to hear their letters to Santa read aloud. There were also updates from Toyland at the North Pole, and, if they behaved, stories from a magic book. Larry was WTMJ's children's programmer, Larry Tyke. In 1931, Billie was actually the voice of Frank Behrens, who later took over the radio role of Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy. Carol Cotter was Billie for the last number of years, including the final program in 1955. Sari Ross was the voice of Billie from 1943 to 1945. Her teenage experience on this program was of help to her years later as a master storyteller. Schuster's department store sponsored the show, as well as an annual Christmas parade. Kids of all ages would line the streets to see the spectacle. For many years, the elaborate floats were constructed on streetcar flatbeds. Santa and his sleigh also visited a number of schools during the holiday season. Metik the Eskimo and live reindeer came along. These visits were always a big hit. The parade and the radio show meant high excitement for more than a generation. Doris Alimo-Malillo's book recalls her own magical memories. Just as she and many other children did every year, her character, Dory May, rushes home excitedly to listen to Billie the Brownie.
Boy, does that bring back memories. Now, Sarah, you played Billie on the radio, but tell us who Billie the Brownie was.
Billie the Brownie was a brownie in the North Pole, at the North Pole, with Santa Claus and Metik, who was the leader of the reindeer. He was an Eskimo. And he had a dog named Willie Wagtail, and they worked all year round to make toys for boys and girls. And then they delivered them, of course, to the entire Milwaukee area, maybe even wider spread than that.
All over the world.
Right.
But what is the difference between a brownie and an elf?
Oh, that's easy. A brownie is invisible. Did you not know that?
I didn't.
No, but an elf and a leprechaun you can see if you know where to look. They live in the forests, and in the glens, and if you look under a rock or someplace, you can find them, especially in Ireland.
I always looked, and I never. My sainted Irish grandmother always told us about the wee folk, but I never,
Yes.
I never saw one. Doris, you wrote the book Dory May and Her Friend Billie, which, by the way, I love. It's terrific, and you talk about how important Billie was in Dory May's life.
Oh, definitely. I remember watching or listening to the radio shows from late 40s, early 50s, running home from school, being there for 5 o'clock. 5:15 was very exciting. Always paid attention to what Billie had to say because I wanted to make sure I was on his good side.
What was his message to kids?
Always be kind to your parents, your siblings, make sure you do your chores, brush your teeth, make your bed, all those good things that everyone needed to know.
He also used to talk about eating your vegetables, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yes. Probably broccoli.
Yeah, that was... was the downfall. I think one time the book didn't open, and I knew it was because I didn't eat my broccoli. But I'm getting ahead of the show. How did you become Billy?
Oh, I was with the Sherwood Players for a long time, and they told me one day at rehearsal that there was an audition at WTMJ. And so I went down and auditioned for it, and I got the part, and I was thrilled. It was my very first job. And
how old were you?
I was in high school. I was probably 16.
Did you have to change your voice at all when you did Billy?
Yeah, I had to talk like a little boy. I was a little boy brownie, you know.
Okay.
And
well, it didn't matter because he was invisible. So
that's right. Not only was it invisible, but this was radio.
Yes, there's that other part.
And that's that other part.
But we used to sit and look at the radio while we were listening.
Right.
Oh, yes.
And I know exactly what Billy looked like.
Oh, right.
Everybody did, because it was up here.
Right.
Yes.
And your
See,
Billy
you're
probably looked different from mine, but I knew exactly.
Exactly. Everyone had
I knew
their
what
own,
Metek
right?
looked like. I knew what Santa looked like. And Willie Wagtail, of course.
Of course.
You must have been a star at high school as being Billy the Brownie.
Oh no, I was sworn to secrecy.
Really?
I couldn't tell anyone.
Oh,
because
that's...
do I look to you like a boy brownie?
No.
Well, no one else would have believed it either.
But that was terrible. Here you've got this great secret and you can't tell anyone?
I couldn't tell anyone except my mother and father and my siblings.
Didn't you ever have the impulse in the middle of class to suddenly answer as Billy?
No.
You weren't. Oh.
No, but it was a wonderful job. I loved it. I had more fun. It was my first introduction to storytelling.
Did you get paid?
I did. I got paid $15 a week.
Wow.
Which was a lot of money in 1943, 44, and 45. Especially if you're not making any money doing anything else. That's a lot of money.
You talked a little bit about some of the other people, Willie Wagtail. Who was the family with the show?
Oh, Larry Tyke, who wrote the show and was Captain Larry.
He was Captain Larry, yeah.
And then there was Santa Claus and Mrs. Santa Claus. And I don't think Metik ever came to the show. He just was in the parade. You know, the show was sponsored by Schuster's department store.
Mm-hmm.
And so, let's see, before Thanksgiving, there was a parade down the Wisconsin Avenue.
Oh, I remember that parade.
And they had live reindeer
Mm-hmm.
and Santa Claus and Mrs. Santa Claus.
But they never had Billy.
But they didn't have Billy because Billy is invisible. And I don't know about these fellows.
Yeah,
though.
I was wondering. These
What do you think, Doris?
we should mention that these actually Gimbel's eventually bought Schuster's, and they made these up. Schuster's never had representatives of Billy, I guess.
But I don't see them. They're brownies.
I know,
I don't know what
and
you're
actually,
talking about.
I never looked like that. So
Yep.
it's just Gimbel's
Yes.
idea of what a brownie would look
Right.
like.
See, as I say, we all had
That's
all
right.
had the idea. Willie Wagtail had a very important job. He was Billy's dog, and the December 24th, when they took off in the sleigh, Willie was always with him. Do you remember what his job was?
I don't.
I don't.
I don't either. Do you know?
His job, yes, I remember. His job was to keep the dogs quiet
Oh, yes.
Oh.
when
he
he
had
would
to
arrive.
keep the dogs quiet so that when Santa
Definitely.
came down the chimney, they didn't bark in the houses.
and
That's
wake up
right.
everybody.
Oh,
That's
that
right.
makes sense.
You're right. And that was a wonderful night, the night we loaded the sleigh, because it was the only time we could really improvise and ad lib.
Really?
Other times we had a script, and Larry was quite firm
He was
about
a
the script.
taskmaster.
Yes, but on that night, the sound effects man was very busy, and he was throwing things and loud noises, and Billy was supposed to be right at the top, handing all the spreading out the toys so they would ride evenly in the sleigh.
And also so that the first stop would have the first toys.
Right. He had to do it correctly.
Yeah.
I mean,
And he was good at it.
And he was good. So we had a lot of fun on that night, and then the show was over.
Wow. Do you remember what the format of the show was, how it started, what happened as they went along?
Well, I remember prior to Thanksgiving, Billy would be announcing various things that were happening with Santa in the workshop and the preparations of the trip down to our neck of the woods, meaning Milwaukee, but I'm sure other cities also, if you believe in Santa Claus.
But we were lucky that Santa did come to Milwaukee and reside at Schuster's.
Definitely. So the talk that Billy would give from 5 to 5:15 would primarily be problems that Santa's sleigh would encounter, storms on the way on the trip to Milwaukee.
Scary.
And, oh, yes.
Is he going to make it?
Exactly. We never knew if he was going to make it on Thanksgiving in time. So then the day after Thanksgiving was when the actual parade would be on. So from that point on, Billie had the 5 o'clock show talking about the activities in the toy shop, how construction of the toys was being handled, and if it was good or if problems were arising, or the elves having difficulty and they had a sickness, or the reindeer were ill. Also, as far as the peeping brownies.
Well, who were the peeping brownies?
He always had a report every night on what the peeping brownies had discovered during the day when they were in your house, keeping an eye on you to find out what you were doing.
Who was naughty and nice?
Exactly, and if you needed improvement, Billie was the one that would say, you so-and-so, Tommy, Jerry, Mary, Susie, all of you, you have to pay attention.
Oh, wonderful.
You didn't realize that how tough you were.
No.
Certainly the one that I remember.
Right. And do you remember, Doris, talking on the shortwave radio to Santa
yes.
at the North Pole?
Yes.
And there was always static.
Oh, yeah.
So that you really felt it was a shortwave radio, and Santa would go, ho, 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 and you could tell he was there. And then Mrs. Santa Claus would come in and say, now, dear, remember not to get a cold, because if you have a cold, you won't make the trip, you know. And she was wonderful.
And who played Mrs. Santa?
Maddie Pritchard.
And she's still here?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh.
She was wonderful.
Maddie, bless you. I hope we find you in very good health as you're watching this tonight. But there was also then there was a story.
Yes, we told stories always. The one I remember the best is why Christmas trees are always green.
Yes.
And but there were many others. But now that I'm a professional storyteller, I tell that story.
Do you?
Why Christmas trees are always green.
Or storytellers are always green. You know, it's
either one. Take your pick.
None of us gets old. But wasn't there something that we had to do? I'm trying to remember that before the big book opened, there was something.
You had to stand in front of the television.
The radio, because brownies are
Stand in front
invisible.
of
It
the
wouldn't have
radio
worked.
and say, "I've been good."
That's it, and you had to say it loud.
Oh,
Loud.
yes.
And if you really weren't good and you were fibbing, we won't say lying or
No.
anything, but fibbing, the book wouldn't open.
Was there ever a time when the book didn't?
Oh,
open?
yes.
Oh, and that put you on guard, and you thought, oh my God, was it me? Did I do something wrong? Did I forget to make my bed? Did I forget to brush my teeth? What did I do wrong?
Did I leave too many vegetables? That
Yes,
was my
exactly.
problem, yes.
And you always felt that the guilt, was it me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And so the book didn't open. We didn't have a story that day.
Right.
Well, did they just cancel the story, or did they
I think so.
have to
Yeah.
go?
No, I think the book didn't open. That was it. And, I remember and in your book, I think you talk about a couple of nights in a row
That it
where it
doesn't
didn't open.
Yes, and Dory May wants to cross her fingers and hope, please, oh please, let it open tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And when it would open, the good days, there would be all kinds of wonderful sound effects. Squeaking
yeah.
and
Wonderful
creaking
sound
doors
effects.
and trying to
was
get that
great.
book open.
Yeah.
How popular was that radio show?
Oh, it was very popular. And I wonder if I could tell a story about the woman who went to the Historical Society that I just told you.
Sure.
She was younger than I, but she remembered Billie very well. And she was at the Historical Society, and she was bending over the radio, which was an old-fashioned radio, but it had a tape behind it, and I believe it was my voice. And my husband tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Do you know who's standing behind you?" And she whipped around, and he said, "That's Billie the Brownie." And she said, "Oh, my God. Do you know you almost ruined my life?" And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. What happened?" She said it was 2 days before Christmas. Billie was still on the air. My mother was having dinner early. We had company. The table was all set with linen and china, and food was all out in silver, and I was all dressed up in my finery. And I said, "Oh, let me go to listen to Billie." And she said, "You just sit still. We're having company. Now, you can't listen to Billie tonight." And she said, I got really upset, and I jumped up to get to the radio, and the buckle on my belt caught the tablecloth and pulled the entire meal to the floor. I know. I ruined her life.
And she blamed that on you.
Yeah, she said that.
I hope you're watching tonight. It wasn't her fault.
Her mother's relationship with her was never quite the same after that. I thought,
I think we've got a sound clip from the show itself. Is that do we? So let's play it and see what it sounds like.
There, the magic index is ready.
And face the radio and say, I have been good.
Christmas star and candles bright shine out upon the frosty night. Abracadabra.
The book's
Oh
open.
boy, ready on
Thank you.
stage, curtain going up.
And our story, why the Christmas tree is always green.
That's the one. I love it. And and we had we talked about Willie Wagtail and Santa and Captain Larry, and there's also a thing about Prancer's bells. And I think we have a cut of that. Why don't we go to that and listen to it right now?
Well, come on, Willie. Santa wants you to get into the sleigh with Frida.
Well, Willie, goodbye and good luck, and down you go. There, now run to the sleigh.
That's Willie Wagtail.
Well, Larry, everything is in fine shape. Metik tells me he never saw the reindeer so full of pep and ready to go. Say, that reminds me. Say, boys and girls, remember how Santa used to jingle and ring bells all through our season? Don't hear them now. Those are Prancer's bells. And they're back where they belong. Got your bells, Prancer? Be careful.
It's so good to hear.
Oh,
That's
isn't
just
it?
great. That's wonderful.
Oh, God. And it's you can see it. That's the thing I always loved about radio, that it was all up here,
Yes.
and there was no budget for the sets because you could have any set you wanted. Whatever you could imagine, that's what it looked like.
That's right.
And the kids had to put something into it.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't just receivers, they were doers.
And I think we're going to hear something from Billy commenting on the day they load the sleigh itself. Is that correct?
Oh,
All right. Let's hear it.
Billie the Brownie just wants to say, in a minute we'll leave in the sleigh. I'm full of fun, full of pep and zing. The sleigh's full of toys which tonight we'll bring. And so as we sleigh from Canada to the Isthmus, Billie proclaims to all the merriest Christmas.
And that was you.
That was wonderful.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, little boy.
A brownie.
Our little boy Brownie.
Yes.
Yes. You know what we did forget? We forgot the all-important letters to Santa.
Oh, yes. We all sent. We
Didn't
used to.
we refer to that?
Well, I don't think so.
I don't know if I-
But if you wrote a letter to Santa, you got something back, and you'd get a little postcard.
Yes.
Where am I holding this? Am I holding it to the right camera? You'd get this little postcard, and it would thank you for sending something to Santa. I can't quite say. Okay, I think I'm doing it right. And then, hang on, I'm going to put something else up. You'd also get a big one, and this was really cool because this was a coloring thing and a cutout, and you get all this. I used to sit every single night waiting to hear my letter, and you never read it.
They never read it. Oh.
Did they ever mention your name?
Yes, once they said, and the
that's
other letters we don't have time to read, but they did have my letter.
That
And for a
was-
minute
that
I
was
thought,
it.
oh, it must be somebody else named Jim Peck. And they realized, no, that was me.
Yay!
But they read Dory's letter.
Well, in the book
Yes.
they do, yes. It's wonder how you can do with the movement of a pen and make the story the way
Yeah.
you wanted.
Yes.
That was all a theatrical license right there. I must say, I never had my letter read.
But children believed if their letter was read, that meant not only that they were on the radio, but that they might get the gift that
Yes.
they had asked for. So that was why it was so important.
When I was preparing this show, I saw a statistic that absolutely knocked me out. The show ran from when to when? I mean, from somewhere in November? When
Yeah,
did,
right, about 10 days before Thanksgiving.
okay, and then ended on Christmas Eve.
Christmas
So you've got a month. In just 1 year, 94,000 letters came in a
Wow.
month.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That
It
is
is.
amazing.
And then when you think of that in terms of 1 year multiplied by 1931 to 1955,
Right.
and the number of people that you and the other Billies had affected, it's amazing. It's millions of people.
Yeah, I think there was something where like 1.5 million letters came in at that time. Those are just the people who sent letters.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody sat alone in the house, and I mean everybody gathered around and listened to this.
That's right.
How big was the parade?
Oh, I don't know numbers, but I know that thousands of people came out, and they lined the streets, and the police had a hard time keeping the crowds back. They wanted to get closer
all
to
the kids wanted to come in.
sleigh, and they wanted to meet Santa.
And Metek.
And Metik. But I mean, I have no numbers in my head.
But it was amazing. It was just throngs. Do you remember going to that? Or you?
I went once. At that time, during the late 40s, early 50s, to drive to downtown Milwaukee was a long distance. We didn't have freeways. We were 25 miles an hour, so to go all the way downtown was a long trip. But one year, I know I did get a chance to go and see it. We had gone down to visit my Auntie Beats and my cousin Diane, and then we walked from their house on Highland to go and see it. It was very exciting. And waiting, that anticipation when Santa finally showed up.
Yeah, and I read about the first one. I think was just two floats. The first parade, and then it got bigger and bigger. But one of the things I remember, it was very different from the parades you see now, where you see a lot of local television celebrities and people like that. They didn't have that in the Schuster's Santa Claus parade.
No,
it was all about the kids.
And they weren't really advertising Schuster's. They didn't have big neon signs, and you know, it was assumed that people knew that if Schuster's sponsored this program, that they would come there to buy the toys for boys and girls. But you know, it was subtle. It was innocent. It was not in your face.
There were simpler times.
Yeah,
yes,
it was not in your face.
It.
It was much better, and it allowed people some dignity.
But it started out, I think it was just a couple of blocks, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And that was the highlight, I swear it, of my year, to go down and watch the Santa Claus parade.
Really?
Oh, I just loved it, and well, I was kind of slow as a child, and we'll just move on. Even Western Union got into the act. Do you remember that?
No, I
yeah,
don't remember that.
they had telegrams from Santa.
Oh yes, yes. I do remember that now, but I don't remember anything more about it.
And they would post them. I remember the telegram would be posted in the window at Western Union, and they also posted them at oddly enough, at Schuster's.
Yes, at Schuster's.
But you could come in, and there was a telegram from Santa Claus.
Oh my goodness!
For how
I missed.
Yeah, how things.
That sounds exciting.
Oh, how things were going on the on the trip. What gave you the idea of writing a book about it?
Well, I got together with family members, and I live in California now, so when I came back to visit family members, we'd talk about things that we remembered, and inevitably the conversation would come around to Billie the Brownie and what we remembered about Billie the Brownie. And I said, you know, somebody really has to write a book about this, because this is an important part of Milwaukee heritage. Well, 1997, I think I sat down and I thought, well, you know, you're always talking about it. Why don't you try doing something? So I did, and several changes after that. And then last year, I decided that if I was going to do anything about it after researching it and putting my head to the grindstone and realizing that 1931, 2006, this was going to be the 75th anniversary, I thought if I'm going to do anything, now's the time to do it, which is why it's here.
And she had it illustrated. It just does
Oh, it's beautiful.
darling illustrations.
Who was the illustrator?
Christiane Kaysen-Weiss. She's done several books. She's done 12 books, and in fact, she has another book that she's just written called Oliver and the Ghost of Bodie. I'll put in a plug for her book.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
But she did a wonderful job on that.
They're wonderful.
Yes,
It really is terrific. But the 75th anniversary. Talk a little bit about Captain Larry Tyke. What was he like? He was sort of everything on that show.
Yes, he worked for WTMJ, and he wrote the scripts, and he was very determined that we would follow the scripts. and I was young enough not to have any opinions, to make any suggestions. I was very intimidated by Captain Larry.
Yes.
That's really all I remember about
him. Was there any significance of the captain part of it?
No, I don't know.
He was just Captain Larry.
Yeah.
I remember that thing. If I remember correctly, he was kind of there at the beginning of radio in this town. I think he started out at WHAD, which was at Marquette University.
Oh yeah.
And then really started WTMJ. Kind of put it on the air.
And he had us come an hour before airtime, and we rehearsed, and then we did the program live 7 days a week.
Wow.
For a month. And so it was, it was a big deal. to a young girl.
I still can't imagine that how you could have kept that secret. I mean, that's
It's
just
amazing. It really is. She and the Lone Ranger.
yes. So Larry wrote the scripts.
Yes.
You had probably actually a little less than an hour to sort of run through it.
Right.
And then you had to go on.
Live.
Wow. Did you ever were you scared at the beginning? Nervous?
No. I'd been doing community theater, and I was used to acting, and so this was just another acting job.
But it's live.
But it was live, right?
I guess acting is live when you come to think of it. Yes. I don't know why
That's
suddenly
right.
came as such a surprise to me.
So I just did what I was told and tried to give it a little fun.
How did you come up with that voice? Because it's just great.
Well, in the audition they said to talk like a little boy, so I talked like a little boy, and I can't do it anymore, but I'm not even little anymore.
You're still little. But
I'm short,
you don't
but
look like
that's
a boy.
different than little. So that was the voice they wanted. They said, don't change it. That's it. So I didn't change it, and that's what
And you really set obviously the tone, and no pun intended, for everybody who followed you, because there were other Billies.
Just one Billy followed me. That was Carol Cotter.
Okay.
But the other Billies were all before me. I just did it for 3 years.
Did you sound the way they had?
I don't know. I never heard them.
Really?
They never played any other Billies for me. I've heard them since. They have given me the tapes. But I don't know. I just made my Billy up, and that was my story, and I stuck with it.
Well, it works. Did you ever think that you'd be sitting down with Billie the Brownie when you were a little kid?
No, I tell you, I called her last week. I think it was Monday. She was on vacation, but I got her phone number from Richard Heinerwicki, and I said...
At the Milwaukee County Historical Society.
Yes, he works over there, and he's a photographer, and very instrumental in getting this all together.
Oh, he's the guy who put this whole show together.
Yes,
yeah.
I thank him very much. Same love of Billy and all of that. But I spoke with her on the phone, and I said, I can't believe I'm talking to Billie the Brownie. I said, I'm actually feeling like I got chills all over my body.
It is. It's just,
people are probably thinking, she's crazy.
I've never given anyone goosebumps ever before.
Well, you
you
gave them
destroyed
to
the
me.
life of the girl that jumped up with all the food on the floor.
I destroyed her.
Anyway,
that's right.
Doris Alimo-Maloa, thank you very much for being with us. Sari Ross, thank you for being Billy. It was just, gosh, it brought back a lot of memories. Thank you for being with us. As always, so nice to see you, and I hope we'll see you next time as we continue to remember. Good night. Thank you.